I still remember the way the clock sounded that night. It was slow, too slow, as if the whole world was holding its breath with me. I was sitting alone in the living room, wrapping my shawl around myself because the air felt colder than usual. Maybe it was not the weather. Maybe it was what I already knew in my heart but never dared to face. My husband, Amir, had been quiet for weeks. Not angry. Not distant in the dramatic sense. Just quiet, like someone carrying a weight that kept sinking deeper inside him. That night, he said he wanted to talk. Those words alone made my hands shake. When someone you love tells you they want to talk, not chat, not discuss, not joke, but talk, you feel something heavy drop inside your stomach. And I felt it drop so deeply that I almost lost my breath. He sat across from me, not beside me. That was the first sign. He looked down at his hands, twisting his wedding ring the way he always did when he was nervous. That was the second. And then he said my name, Aisha, in a voice that did not belong to the man I thought I still knew. That was the third sign. The room suddenly felt too still, too open, too bright. The lights were showing every corner of the pain I had been trying to hide from myself. I did not speak. I did not ask anything. I just waited. When a marriage hangs by a thread, you learn to recognize silence more than words. Finally, he lifted his eyes. They looked tired, older, like he had lived a life I didn't know about. And then he said the sentence that would change everything. There is something I have kept from you. And it's the reason our home has been breaking for years. My breath caught in my throat. He looked at me like a man who had carried a secret too heavy for too long. And at that moment, that exact moment, I already knew that whatever he was about to say would not just explain our past. It would redraw our entire future. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't interrupt. I only whispered two words. I'm listening. Even though I was terrified of what I was about to hear. And that night, that quiet, cold, unforgettable night, my husband finally admitted what broke our home apart. Setup is almost equal to 1,200 words. Before I tell you what he confessed, I need to tell you who we were, or at least who I believed we were. Amir and I had been married for 16 years. We were not a perfect couple. But we were steady, or so I thought. Our life had a gentle rhythm. He woke early, made tea for us both, and read the newspaper even though he always complained about the small print. I packed his lunch, got the kids ready, and reminded him to take his keys, which he always forgot. We laughed often. We argued sometimes. We forgave quickly. Or maybe I forgave quickly. Maybe he didn't. We lived in a modest home. White walls. Brown wooden furniture. A little garden where I planted jasmine every spring. I loved those flowers. I thought they made the house feel peaceful. Amir always said he liked the smell, even though he had allergies. That's the kind of small lie you love your spouse for. To the outside world, we seemed fine. People said things like, "You two look so balanced. You both understand each other so well. You're lucky, so many marriages fall apart." I used to smile. I used to feel grateful. And maybe that was the problem. I believed too easily. I trusted too deeply. I held on too tightly. Because if you had asked me 2 years before that night whether my marriage was breaking, I would have laughed. But the cracks were there, even then. I just didn't see them. Or maybe I didn't want to. The first signs were small. Tiny changes that felt harmless. He started coming home late. Work pressure, he said. He stopped laughing at my jokes. Just tired, he said. He avoided eye contact when talking to me. Too many things on his mind, he said. And every explanation sounded reasonable, until the reasonable began to feel rehearsed. I tried to ignore it. I tried to fill the silence with conversations about the kids, about bills, about groceries, about anything that kept us from drifting away. But the distance grew. It grew like a shadow following us, stretching longer every day. One night, I asked gently, "Is something bothering you?" He shook his head, smiled weakly, and said, "No, everything is fine." But the smile didn't reach his eyes. Another sign. Then he started avoiding family gatherings. He always had an excuse. I would sit alone at weddings, at dinners, at birthdays, pretending everything was normal. But the empty seat beside me felt louder than all the noise around. People whispered. Some asked questions. Some gave me looks that I pretended not to notice. And yet, I defended him. I said things like, "He's very tired. He has a big project. He'll come next time." But I stopped believing myself. The worst part was not the distance. It was the loneliness that came wrapped inside silence. Living with someone who is drifting away feels heavier than living alone. And slowly, day by day, our home felt less like a home and more like two strangers sharing a roof. Still, I stayed gentle. Still, I stayed patient. Still, I believed he would come back emotionally. Until the night he broke my belief. And now we return to that night. The night he said, "There is something I have kept from you. And it's the reason our home has been breaking for years." I remember how his voice sounded. Low. Uncertain. Fragile. I felt something inside me freeze, but I held myself still. "What is it, Amir?" I asked softly. He swallowed hard. Then he said the words that felt like someone had pulled the floor from beneath me. "I have not loved you the way you loved me, for a long time." For a moment, I could not breathe. Not love me? Not, for a long time? What does that even mean? He kept speaking. His words came slow, heavy, almost trembling. "I care for you. I respect you. You're the mother of my children." But somewhere along the way, something inside me changed, and I didn't know how to say it. I didn't want to hurt you. So I kept pretending. And the pretending tore everything apart. I stared at him. I tried to find anger inside myself. I tried to feel rage. I tried to feel shock. But all I felt was emptiness. A deep, hollow emptiness. I whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" He closed his eyes. "Because I didn't want to be the reason you broke." I almost laughed. "Assad. Bitterlef. You think I wouldn't break like this?" I asked. He looked at me with guilt all over his face. "I'm sorry," he said. But something about those words felt too small for the weight of what he had confessed. And then he admitted something even deeper. "You gave more to this marriage than I ever did. You tried more. You loved more. And I let you believe we were fine because it was easier to hide my truth than to face it." The truth struck harder than any argument we had ever had. I realized then that love doesn't end like a sudden storm. Sometimes it fades like sunlight, quietly, slowly, without warning. And by the time you feel the cold, it's already gone. I felt my throat tighten. My eyes burn. But I held my tears. I said nothing. Because what do you say to the person who just told you they stopped loving you and never told you? He continued speaking, voice shaking now. "I didn't fall out of love because of you. You did nothing wrong. I changed, and I didn't understand myself enough to be honest." That should have comforted me. But it didn't. Because if I was not the reason, then I was never the reason he stayed. And that realization hurt more than anything. We sat in silence for a long time. Maybe minutes. Maybe hours. I don't know. Then he said quietly, "I don't want to leave. I don't want to break our family. I just want to be truthful with you. I owe you that much." I took a deep breath. "Truth comes with consequences, Amir." He nodded. "I know." I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak. I walked to the window, held the curtains, and stared outside. The streetlight was flickering. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Life outside our house felt normal, while my inside was collapsing. Finally, I asked the question I had been avoiding. "Do you want to try again, or do you want to walk away?" His silence was my answer. Not anger. Not guilt. Just silence. He didn't know how to try again. He didn't know how to rebuild something he no longer felt connected to. So I sat back down, facing him. "Then I will rebuild alone," I said softly. His eyes widened. "Aisha." "No," he whispered. "This home may have broken, but I won't." He reached toward me, but I stepped back. "I'm not angry," I told him. "And I'm not here to punish you. But I need space. I need time. And I need to protect my heart now." He nodded slowly, tears forming in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered again. I know, I replied. And strangely, I believed him. He was not a bad man. Just a human man who made a painful mistake by hiding the truth. And I was a woman learning how to carry a pain I never asked for. The days after that night were quiet. We lived in the same house, but everything felt different. He moved gently around me, as if afraid of hurting me again. And I moved gently too, because hurting myself was the last thing I needed. We talked only about necessary things, the children, groceries, bills. But our emotional distance became a strange kind of peace. No more pretending. No more acting. No more forced closeness. Just truth, painful, real, clear. And in that truth, I found something surprising. Strength. Not loud strength. Not angry strength. Quiet strength. The kind that grows in the heart of someone who has survived the truth and still chooses to stand. Months passed. We did not divorce. We did not fall apart fully, either. We became something in between, two people rebuilding a life with honesty as the first brick. Slowly, Amir began to understand his own emotions. Slowly, I began to understand mine. And slowly, very slowly, something changed. Not a return of old love, but the beginning of something new, something real this time. We talked. We walked. We listened. There were days of hurt. Days of progress. Days of confusion. But we kept going. And I learned something life-changing. A home does not break because the truth is spoken. It breaks because the truth is hidden. That night, the night my husband admitted what broke our home apart, did not end our story. It began a new chapter. A chapter built on clarity. A chapter built on honesty. A chapter built on two people finally seeing each other without walls. I do not know where our future will lead. I do not know if the old love will return. I do not know if we will remain together forever. But I do know this. I am no longer afraid of the truth. And I am no longer afraid of rebuilding, with him or without him. Because that night broke my heart. But it also opened it. And sometimes, the most painful truths are the ones that finally set you free.